Alrighty, folks, welcome back to another episode of Live in Motherfucking 5, baby. Episode number 79, coming across the screws over here. Jay Swish reporting live from the desert. Azo in Minnesota. We got Brad Elliott Schlossman coming on the program today. Schloss obviously is a well-known figure to UND hockey fans, college hockey insider. Nonetheless, this guy's had NHL job opportunities, Azo, but you know what? He turns them down. He's the best in the business. He's the best in college hockey as far as I'm concerned. And he's really dialed into not only the program, but just college hockey in general. So it was great to chat with him for a little bit. He's down in Omaha this weekend getting ready for UND versus the Mavs there. Playoff time, fella. I'm a little concerned, I will say, before we get into this intro. I don't know. It's do or die. And from my understanding, they basically have to win out, no? Like they'd have to win this weekend, and then they'd have to win the NCHC Final Five. Is that correct to make it into the dance?
Yep, that's correct. They've got to win. They don't have to win 4 straight, but they've got to win 4 out of 5 if it goes. But
yep.
They do have to win 4 games within the next 2 weekends, Jordo, which is something they haven't done yet this year.
Right. So basically, short story long here is let's get it done this weekend, see where it goes. Just get us to Minneapolis. Give us a chance. I mean, they're playing Omaha, who they played last weekend at senior weekend, and it sounds like it's just kind of, the benchmark of the entire season. A little bit of up, a little bit of down, kind of a roller coaster. They got it done on Friday night. By all accounts, they looked pretty good, and then Saturday night just shit the bed early, and it got away from them. So, you know what? It's going to come down to how their decor plays. They're going to need really good goaltending, and like we chatted with Schloss, I think the secondary scoring, because you got to get some. Especially at playoff time, you got to get greasy. You got to get, you got to rely on maybe a power play goal where you only get 2 looks the entire game. So I'm rooting for the boys, but and I got my Nodak sweater on over here, Azo, but I'm a little nervous because this time of year is usually built for Sioux hockey. In the last couple of years, bro, it's been tough. I mean, last year they made the dance, but fella, it's I'm a little nervous.
Yeah, last year they kind of pissed away that 1 seed. They should have had a 1 seed. They ended up with the 2, end up pulling Michigan, lose that game against a hot Michigan. That was tough, but yeah, this not too confident right now, Jordo.
I know it's a weird feeling.
I don't feel good. I do know, watching these guys, I do think they have playoff type players on their team though. Guys who aren't scared to get dirty and go to the corners. But yeah, I mean, some of these guys who are studs and juniors and high school and they're younger, unfortunately, man, they got to step up and they got to do what they're brought in to do. Yeah, I don't know. It's scary. It's really scary, Jordan, because, if they don't win this weekend, like I brought up with Schloss, are they going to see one of their best players transfer out?
Yeah.
And
Sasha or some of these guys.
Yeah, it's a terrifying thought, and you wouldn't think so, but you never know nowadays.
You never know, and just hopefully the guys, and especially led by Jordan Schmaltz and all those boys, the seniors, they're feeling a lot better than we are, because the noise doesn't matter. What we're thinking does not matter. No. I'm just saying, I'm voicing my reason of concern. Now, Azo, we did chat with Slosh about that in terms of, you made a very good point, an interesting take in terms of, say UND loses this weekend, do you lose some of your studs and they go to another program? Like, you got an agent telling you something, then you got an NHL team telling you something. And it's like, okay, well, maybe if an NHL team's like, we wouldn't have a problem with you going back to college if you say you don't want to play in the American League right away, but you got to go somewhere else. Or a different school throws you a ton of cash, like we talked about a Big Ten team like Michigan or Minnesota or even out east, say BC or BU. That was a really good point, and we'll dissect it again as the interview gets going in terms of the interview portion of a Slosh. But, man, you really threw me in a blender there, because that would be so disrespectful. Not in a sense I would get it, but it would just be like, you're really leaving the best college hockey program on paper. I'm not saying we're the best this year, but the rink, the facilities, the coaching staff, everything you need, you're going to leave that. Like, you never leave a good time for a good time, Mazel. You know that.
No, yeah. And you know, it would just be a really, you know, one, I can't see an NHL team telling their player, you got to leave. Like, I just don't think that's going to happen. They have all the facilities. They've got the ice. They've got the shooting room. They've got a great trainer. They've got all that stuff, video, all this stuff to be the best hockey player you can be. So I'd have a tough time believing an NHL team would say anything like that. An agent, though, maybe. I mean, what if your agent lives in a big city? Hey, buddy, come here. I'll be closer. I can watch you a little more. You know, I could see that. Or, Jordo, it seems like this team has had some internal issues throughout the year. Could that have a factor in it too? Maybe the locker room's a little bit broken. Now, again, we're just idiots talking from the outside. I have no idea. You know, obviously you talk to the players, everything's all good. Yeah, what you know they're going to say that, but you got to speculate when you're on the outside, and you know it wouldn't be a good look for inside the locker room if someone left. Because imagine you're at North Dakota, Jordo, and even if you're getting paid nothing at North Dakota, Minnesota or Michigan or BC comes along and says, "Hey, Jordo, $100,000 to come play here. Come on, buddy." I don't think you're going. You're like, no. Fuck off, you know, because at the end of the day, yeah, that money sounds nice, but like, I love these guys and I love playing here. So like, no, thank you, but no, thank you.
Yeah, I'm still going to Hack and saying, can you give me 25 though? Like, is there any way we could, you know, Red Pepper sponsorship, or can we go to maybe do a cart deal at Rydell? Could you give me 25? Hack, come on, I'll take the hometown discount. But Azo, I want to ask you this: does the agent get a percentage of that money, the NIL money?
You'd think,
right? Like, do they or do they not? I don't even know.
It's a great question. I mean, it's all new, but I would think your agent is working on some of those deals. He's expecting some kickback.
Right. Is it like a more of a percent when you turn professional? Does it go up to 4.5% on that entry level contract versus 3.5 or 4? Or is it literally they're getting a slice of the pie? Because those guys aren't doing those deals for free either. And especially, I'm curious on the big boy dollars of the likes of college basketball and football. I don't know. I was curious. I'll have to ask someone on that front. I'll maybe call the people's agent, Drew Shore, and see what he says. But Azo, I wanted to get into your weekend. I wanted to get into the East Side Green Wave, getting it done. Uncle Rico being at the forefront of that celebration. Oh my God, man. Talked to him a little bit afterwards. He was so geeked up, and rightfully so. But you were watching that game, I think, at the bar. So were you not even at was it a better seat at the bar, or what was that?
Well, I'm a little superstitious, Jordo. So I had to watch the semifinal game from my office. So I wasn't at the X for that one.
Okay.
And they came back down 5-2, won the game. So I had a little bit of superstition. I'm like, I wasn't at the big semifinal game that came back and won. So
that was against Hibbing, right?
Yep. Kind of got to keep things the same and not go to this one. And it was also, there's another factor playing in. Friday night after their win against Hibbing, yes, I was downtown St. Paul pretty much all day. So I woke up a little stung on Saturday.
Okay.
Now, this is a high school boys tournament, so they do not serve alcohol in the rink. So did I have some Caesars while I was watching this game to get myself back to neutral? Yes. Was it a great play? I think so. I was feeling great at the end of it. It was a hell of a game. But yeah, no, I didn't go. I was actually at a bar in St. Paul, close to the rink. So I met everyone after they won and stuff. But yeah, it was just it was incredible, man. You know, like as a town of East Grand Forks, they've only got 3 state championships of all time, which is pretty good. I mean, they've been fairly recent. I think it was 14, 15, their first 2, and now 25. But just an incredible season. Like they entered playoffs, Jordo. I think the record was 10-13.
Wow.
So
And
for
why was
them,
that? Just because they're playing their strength of schedule, or just
strength
kind
of
of?
schedule, they basically played a double A schedule. I think this was a team, Jordan, that kind of, if they wanted to pull it together, they could. In regular season, they just didn't care as much. But come playoff time, they played the number one team, Warroad. They beat them in the section final. They played the number two team, Hibbing, in the semifinal, and then they played the number three team, St. Cloud's Cathedral. And Jordan, they outplayed all three teams. Like it wasn't like they got lucky and like their goalie was hot and they got a couple bounces. They just outplayed them. They were a better team. And I don't know, it was pretty cool to see, watch them come together. It's especially these high school kids when you're that young, you're playing these big games in front of, more people than you've ever played in front of in your life. And you can see like some players will get nervous and they'll start, they'll get jittery with the puck, and that's just what happens. There wasn't a single guy on East Grand Forks who got any nerves, like they were just so calm, cool, collected, never made any bad mistakes. They were just, I don't know, they had ice in their veins, man. These kids are legends.
Well, you were saying that group, predominantly all the juniors and at least most of the seniors, they've won at every level, correct?
Yes, every single level. So they know what it takes.
So what is that dating back to? Pee-wees, Bantams, and then high school?
Yep.
That's pretty impressive, man. And to come back and beat Hibbing, especially down 5-2, like were they down 5-2? Was it early in the game or was it second period, third period?
They were down to like halfway, I think a little over halfway through the second. It seemed like it was over at that point.
And I love the still shots too of Rico during the championship game. He might be the assistant coach, but I think he might be the voice of the team. He had the boys in the huddle at the TV timeout, or maybe Cathedral had called timeout. It just seemed that, the coaching staff of East Grand Forks, first off, is first team all beauty. Jake Useldinger, Tyler Palmasino, and Colton Sanderson. So those boys obviously, led a group of young fellas to a championship. But yeah, man, it was cool to see. Did you catch Rico like right after the game, or did they get on the bone rattler and get right out of town? Because when I talked to him, he was on the bus. So
yeah,
did he even get to sneak away and have a couple pops or no?
No, the team didn't see anyone. The XL kind of the staff gets everyone out of there really quick because they got to turn it over for the AA games. So they played at noon. I think the game ended sometime around 2:30, 3 o'clock, and then. After you win, Jordan, these high school kids, they got a big party back in town. So like, they're like, hey, let's get the bus fired up. Like we got to get back to town. We got beers waiting. And the same for the coaches. So I didn't get to see them after the game. Unfortunately, it would have been great to see Palmo, Dinger, and Dusky, because I know how much it matters to them. And how much they put in a lot of time, dude. And I don't think they're getting paid fully for it. Like I do think they're collecting a little bit of paycheck, but like they're probably getting paid like $2 an hour at the end of the day, So like, sure. I mean, these guys are putting in time and work, and it was just unbelievable to see it work out for them.
Yeah, you're doing it because you love the game. You're not doing it for the paycheck. Yeah. You're doing it so you can have a couple pops after a Tuesday night game, maybe a couple, after a practice, and then ultimately give back. So, no, I was so happy for those guys. So, shout out to Eastside. Shout out to the Green Wave, baby. Ozzo's alma mater, getting it done in the Class A Minnesota High School Championship. Who won the AA side? Was it Edina? Who was it?
Moorhead Spuds.
Wow.
So two northern teams won, yeah.
Okay. The Souters kid wasn't playing on that team, was he?
No,
Matty Cullen?
Cullen.
Yeah.
Matt Cullen. Yeah, I had a couple kids on the team. He's the assistant coach. I think he's kind of the sole reason why they're not the sole reason. I think they have a good coaching staff, but they get a lot of kids from Fargo to move over to Moorhead to play, because it's just they had an absolute wagon of a team. I mean, this team was nasty.
I always get a kick out of the name Moorhead. You drive by it and you're like, yep, I'll take that. I'll take some Moorhead. But yeah, that's cool, Ozzo. That tournament we touched on it before. I was always jealous or envy of those kids that play in front of somewhere between 15 and 20,000 with the student section and all that. So sounded like a great weekend. Lastly on that front, did you get Nikki Matson out at all for a couple pops around the state tourney? No, stayed away.
Nope, didn't see him. Saw Bryn Chiswick scouting there.
Yep.
Christo, great seeing those boys.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yep, that's awesome. But Ozzo, quickly on my weekend down here Saturday, you know who I got to have some beers with? Dave Hakstol. Dave Hakstol was down here with the family, so he snuck away for anywhere from 2 to 5 wheat sodas per se. I was on the tequila, but man, that guy is all time. And you know what? Again, he made it a point. He is coming to the golf trip. He's not going to do the full 3 or 4 day shift, but he's going to fly in with Jax. If Jax gets cleared for contact to come down to Tampa Bay, they're going to do, I think it sounds like a 36-hour type of runner. So I was fired up. So we were having pops. We were talking about life. We're talking about hockey, and Hack's the best. He's fucking nails. And the amount of time you spend with him, you want just equally as much time, if not more. But we got to our third or fourth drink, and he just stops and he just kind of looks at me. We're sitting at a bar stool. He's like, so tell me about this golf trip. What goes on here? I'm like, well, do you really want exactly what goes on here? You'll be all right, but I think you just come into it with open arms and an open mind. He's like, yeah, Jordan, I can't do the full shift, but we're going to plan on coming in for 36 hours, maybe a night, a day of golf, and then get out of town that night or stay, depending on how it goes. But his little shit smirk was so funny, man. So to have those guys on the trip, Ozzo, I can't wait.
What an add to the crew. I mean, Jax obviously is just a legend in his own right, but to get Dave, I don't even like calling him that. It's hilarious calling him that though. But to get Hack out there, man, this guy, he's just he's an all-time character. The guy is just so cool, calm, collected, professional, strong handshake, good looking dude still, I mean, it looks like he'd still play.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that would be great to have those guys in the mix. They're not going to be holding back either. They're one of the boys now.
Oh yeah, and he was trying to get the pre-scout on different guys and who maybe the early favorites for MVPs are. And I'm like, look, Kajula still has his fastball. Ozzo that weekend is full Ozzo. We have a lot of good players out there. Let's put it that way. And some guys have lost a step, but in the same rate, some guys I think have sped up. And Kajula is one of those guys. And the shitty smirk he got on his face, he's like, I was in Bakersfield 2 weeks ago and I had dinner with Kajula, his 2 boys, and his wife. And I was just sitting there just kind of laughing. This kid, he got stretchered out after a rookie party one year, and I had to go bail his ass out at the hospital, and now he's got 2 kids. It's just like life comes at you fast, Jordan. I'm like, well, Hack, I don't have any of that, so I'm all good, fella. So,
yeah. It is a little bit of a Harlem Globetrotters event. I mean, it's like an all-star game out there. You don't have any weak links.
And I was explaining to him where guys in the past, and I'm not going to name any names, have gotten suspended from trips because of their actions or their lack of action. And there's been guys even wanting to get into the University of North Dakota golf trip that are former alum, but we do them a favor and say, you know what, it's probably for your best interest. You don't attend this, because I know you'd be the guy waking up on Saturday on moving day, booking that flight out. So I'm going to do you just the good of my heart to keep you from the panic attack and simply just stay away, man. This trip, I know it's not for you as much as you want to think it is. We know from experience, and veterans and commissioners, just stay away. So that's always funny, Oz. When guys they're chomping at the bit, and we're just like, you know what, man, it's nothing personal, but I'm actually doing you a favor.
No, I actually like you, man.
Like you a lot.
That's why you can't come. If I didn't like you, I'd tell you to come.
Right.
But I actually do like you. So that's why I'm telling you, it's kind of, it sounds different because I'm telling you not to come, and it would seem like I don't like you, but I actually do really like you. And that's why I'm telling you, you don't want any part of this.
Yeah. You don't want none of this, Dewey. It's for the old walk hard style. You don't want none of this. I think I kind of want it. So yeah, great addition to the golf trip. Had a couple drinks with Hack, obviously Aaron, the whole family, Avery. They're all legends. So shout out to Dave Hakstol.
Did you ask Hack what he's been up to?
Yeah, he's ripping around like he's fucking a madman. He's still getting paid by Seattle, but he's going to all these American League games. He's going to NHL games. He's scouting. Also, he's putting together like a full pack of like what he'd pitch to general managers, ownership groups, coaching staffs as like basically like a consultant or a front office job or a coach. You know how he is. He's watching film 24/7 on these games.
Oh yeah.
I was quizzing all of his knowledge of like, he's giving me like American League stats. He's giving me college hockey stats. I mean, the guy was in Bakersfield. Like watching Kajula, he's making $3 million almost this year. Like, yeah, he wants back in the game. He just doesn't know where it's going to be yet. So I'm hoping he'll land on his feet, but I could just see him. And I was telling him like, dude, I know it's a hard job to get, but like, you're some sort of senior advisor or general manager, or assistant GM or president. Like, 100%. I think he could do anything on the front office side. And he's just like, he's a leader.
Yes, 100%. I think you need him in a front ofce, honestly. He'd be more valuable there. Not to say he's not, I think is as good as a coach as you can get, but I think he'd be more valuable there than coaching. And I think it'd suit him better too, because he's not on the road as much, I guess. And like, you know, a guy like him.
And not the day-to-day grind of coaching and the highs and lows. Like he's like a manager of people.
Exactly. And he's a leader. And it's funny to think, you know, he's going to Bakersfield and still putting in all this work for the game of hockey. When this guy, he could just sit on a beach somewhere.
Yes.
You know, like it's pretty funny. Like he's made enough money. Like he could probably just relax and do something easy, but that's not the guy he is.
And the first sign of weakness, and it's not even weakness, but the first sign of weakness I've ever seen, and I don't even think it's weakness, Azo, out of Dave Hakstol, the kid from Warburg, Alberta, was he said to me, he goes, fuck, Jordan, Grand Forks is just cold, isn't it? I go, you're telling me, buddy. It really is. I'm like, but you grew up in fucking rural Alberta. He's like, but I haven't been in North Dakota in the last 10 years, really, especially, you know, if I was just flying in for a Christmas, it's doable. But he's like, it's just fucking cold there, isn't it? I go, it's fucking brutal, bro. And he's yeah, so I might have to look at getting a place down here in Arizona or something, because I don't know if I could do this shit anymore. He's like, I'm too fucking old. It was pretty funny. Like, that's the first time I've ever actually heard him complain about anything in life.
Anything. Yeah.
So
that'd be weird hearing that come out of his mouth.
Yeah, it was funny. It was, and you know, like, you just get, and especially when you're just one-on-one with a dude, and I love this guy, so do you, but you just get so much more quality time and like realness out of someone versus, and it's nothing, you know, it's no different if we're hanging out one-on-one or we're in a group. Like we can, you know, when you're chin on chin, you just snap it around. And that's like you know, I don't think I've had a one-on-one with Hack like that since, you know, maybe freshman year, Azo, like an exit meeting.
Yeah, exactly. No, those one-on-ones are definitely, like you said, with anyone that's, you know, of meaning to you. And how often do you talk to a guy one-on-one? You know, usually it's in like at least a group of 3 or 4.
Yeah.
You know, those one-on-ones are definitely great to get in though. Like those are unreal. Yeah.
So it was really cool to hang out with Hack. And of all places too, we were at the Rooster Tavern and I walk in, Hack's sitting there because obviously he's going to be 5 minutes early and I'm running a little behind. No shit do I see Mike Commodore in the same bar at like 4 o'clock on a Saturday. Oh, this is pretty fitting. So me, Kami, and Hack actually had a couple pops together too. So it was pretty funny.
That's unreal.
Yeah.
And did Hack coached Kami, didn't he? Or was he an assistant?
Yeah, I think he was an assistant, and Aaron Hakstol went to school with Kami. They were just like friends or whatever. So they kind of all know each other. So yeah, it was funny. No shit, Mike Commodore's is sitting there. So it was awesome. Also, lastly, just on my week, I wanted to touch on because I just thought it was cool. So that was Saturday. I was hung as hell on Sunday, flew into Salt Lake City and saw Willie Stiles, Nikki on that Sunday. Nikki made fajitas. We hung out. But on the previous Friday, I had DM'd the owner of the Utah Hockey Club, Ryan Smith. I said, Smitty, I know you run a lot. in terms of, I know you hit the hardwood. I know you play hoops. Where are we playing Monday morning? And he says, 6 a.m. at BYU. Let's see if you can hang. So I responded on Sunday when I was hung. I said, send the address, fella. So he sends me the address. I go hoop with Ryan Smith and all of his boys at BYU, 6 a.m. in Provo. Now, Provo, for the folks that don't know, is 50 minutes south, roughly, of Salt Lake City, especially where Nikki's living. So I set my alarm, Azo, to 4:55 on Monday morning. I get in the car. I drive my ass down to Provo. I get there at, I'd say 5:55. And in his text, he said 6 a.m. sharp. So I'm getting there. The gym's getting open. I'm like, what's up, Smitty? How we doing, fella? Good to see you. Because, I've had some back and forth with him. He's a good dude. He's awesome. A great owner and a great dude. So he comes up to me, starts shooting the shit. And before the game starts, he's like, so all these guys playing are either former D1 players or pros. I go, holy shit. I haven't run 5 since maybe that street ball game I was telling people about last summer or 2 summers ago when I rolled my ankle over at James Madison Park in Madison, but that was just a street ball game. That was in the hood. So I'm playing legit hoopers, and I am so far over my skis. You should have seen the game I was playing. I was playing like Pat Bev. I would just D up as hard as I could and then just stretch the floor and just try to cut through lanes, set picks. If I got the ball, it was like 2 dribbles into the paint and then look where to kick it out. But it was so much fun, man.
Did you chuck up any ball? Did you shoot any?
Oh yeah. We played 5 games. We were playing to 15.
Yep.
2s and 3s. I think I averaged 1 bucket a game. So maybe it was 4 buckets in 5 games, but I had a couple misses in there too. But the one play I remember, my 3 didn't go in. Every shot was mid-range. I had this nasty floater over a big man. I came in, I drove the paint, got inside, right in the middle of the paint, kind of just probably 4 feet inside, 3 feet inside the free throw line. I fake dished it outside. He bit on that, and I threw a sky floater over him, and it hit the flat iron part of the rim behind the bucket and bounced up 4 feet and then dropped in, and the boys were just dying laughing. They're like, oh! But it was so much fun, man. And you know what? Ryan Smith, Azo, is a bucket.
Is he?
He is sick. His 3-pointer was wet. His mid-range was good. He's in shape. He can take it to the hole. For a guy that never played at a professional or college level, I'm not just trying to suck him off. He was a bucket, dude. The last game we played, now this was after, of course, he told all the boys they were taking a party bus in from Provo and loading it up and go to the Leafs game that night. So maybe the D was a little bit easier. But the last game, played to 15. He scored all 15 points, 3 threes and 3 twos. And the last bucket he scored, he drove a guy, backed him up to the block, called bank, called game. So it was crazy. I thought they would give him the full Putin treatment. They did. They were actually D'ing him up. The athletic director at BYU was talking shit to him. This little Puerto Rican guy. It was sick.
That's nasty. How does it work then? Is it pickup hockey, Jordan, where you throw your shoes in the middle and you throw them to the side, or how'd you pick teams?
Yeah, so they've had this same run of 12 to 15 guys for 10 years, and they don't let anyone in. I don't know why I got the invite. Smitty was just being so generous. So they have the same group of dudes that all run together. Their one rule is no bigs. So if you're a big, they had a couple of guys that are 6'8", but they're point guards or small forwards. No big guys that can play. It's a predominantly 3-ball shooting league or mid-range, good D, no undercuts. So they have all these established rules, but Smitty picks the team to start. He picks his team. So he picked me on his team. And then it's just basically you stay until you lose. And then the losing team, well, now you have to shoot to stay. So then 8 guys will come in, and the first 5 guys to make a 3-pointer stay in that game. And then the next 3 guys have to sit out. So I found myself sitting out a couple games. They probably played 7. I played 5. Because also you can't miss. If you miss the 1-3, your chance. These guys, the one guy was Lee Cummard. He was the 2008 Big Mountain West, whatever it is, player of the year.
Just a baller.
Yeah, you know what I mean? What do you mean? They don't. And the Puerto Rican guy who's going to be Brian Santiago, who's going to be the athletic director for BYU in the next couple months. He played at Fresno State and averaged 15 points a game. These guys are sick.
Oh yeah.
So I missed twice, and of course, I'm
You're
out.
out. Yeah.
So, and I couldn't believe how good some of these guys were, and it's just amazing. Like, I always, just talk about it in a funny way, but I actually think I kind of believed it for a bit. Like, I could get you 10 in the corner in an NBA game, bro. I couldn't even get 10 in the corner in a pickup game. Like, I didn't even score 10 total points.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so funny. Like,
it'd be so tough out there. I'd be so scared. Like, what are you gotta be like, you gotta have nerves running in there. Like, are you walking in like,
well, I didn't have any walking in there to the facility, but then when he told me who these guys were, I'm like, all right, like, whatever. Like, how good can Smitty really be? How, these guys look a little older, some of them. And then the game started. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I'm driving into the paint. I'm driving into the paint on a guy, and fucking, he's got like his arm like right on the ball, like trying to swat it out. I'm like, what the hell is going on? So, yeah. But the one time a guy tried to back me in, Ozzo, I went full hockey guy on him. I shouldered him back and just brushed him right off the block, and
I love that.
Then got big on him, and he didn't score. So I was playing hard D. Let's put it that way.
I like that. Yeah, well, you gotta if you're not gonna bring the O game, I mean, if you're in shape, you gotta bring it on the D. Yeah. And you obviously don't want to embarrass yourself. So you think you had a good showing for us hockey players?
I think it was. I could have been better. I think next time, if I do get the invite, I got to shoot more. Ultimately, I got to show that confidence side of me, because I think they knew I wasn't an offensive threat probably by the middle of the first game, which is a lonely feeling. You know what I mean? Like, your own teammates are not really dishing you the rock.
Yeah. Yeah. You're wide open.
Yes.
People are looking you off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a great feeling, but I did get more confident as the game went. I was facilitating, had a couple nice dimes.
I saw your story too. That gym looked nasty.
Dude, it's sick, bro.
Like, BYU, that Provo, Jordan, that's a nice little pocket. Now, I'm not saying I want to live there, but it's a nice little pocket they got there.
It's a very different vibe. I didn't realize it was. I mean, I knew BYU was a Mormon school, but I didn't realize like it's like 98% Mormon in that whole vicinity.
And they're actually like, there's Mormons who don't follow the Mormon rules. They're just Mormon. I think those people are legit Mormon.
Yeah, like I couldn't even get on campus, Ozzo, to drive around, but I had to bribe a guy. Like, there was like security toll booths set up at each end of the campus, and I was like, "Hey, man, like I just hooped with some guys over at the practice facility," and they're like, "Oh, who?" I'm like, "Oh, I just name dropped." I was like, "Well, the assistant AD and Smitty." And they're like, "Okay, I will let you pass through." But other than that, like you couldn't drive around. Like, you can't go anywhere. It's crazy.
Yeah, they keep that shit locked down.
Yeah, it was wild, but yeah, that was a hell of a time. And then that game was awesome. I sat on the glass. I did a little bit of a content series with the Utah Hockey Club. Also, I had an unbelievable bit teed up. So me and Tyson Nash sat there for the 2 periods, mic'd up, got some great content. Saw that Superman punch. Saw Utah go down 3-0, come back, make it 3-3, OT game, shootout, sick. But after the second period, we were right by the ice crew. And the Utah Hockey Club ice crew features a lot of dudes in it, a lot of ice dudes. So I like the teams that have all the chicks, but they got the ice dudes. So I go up to one of the ice dudes and I go, "Hey, fella, right around when do you guys normally go on?" They're like, "Okay, we usually go on at the 14, 10, and 8 marker." I'm like, "Okay, I want to take a shift in the third period. Will you let me change out and put your stuff on? What size skate do you got?" He's like, "I got a 9 EE." I go, "That'll work. I'm an 8, 8.5, and I really like a really tight boot, but it doesn't matter because I'm just going to shovel." So I had this whole bit teed up where I was literally putting this guy's skates on. I threw the Utah whatever ice crew like flap jacket on, the windbreaker. These guys were going over their formations with me. So they're like, "Swish, you're going to go third in the hole, and you're going to have to angle your shovel to the middle of the ice. And from there, the person skating the opposite direction will take your snow." I'm like, "Okay, but like, I don't know if I really want to go in front of the bench." They're like, "No, your shift and your spot position is right in front of the bench." I'm like, "Okay, well, I got to own this then." So we talked to the Zamboni crew. They were all on board with it. I'm getting ready to put on the skates to do this. And now, mind you, Nick, my brother, is on the team. I know the whole fucking Utah Hockey Club. I know a lot of the guys on the Maple Leafs. I did a lot of, 50% of those guys I did a training camp with. So I'm getting geared up about to go on the ice. All this kid wanted was a signed puck. I'm like, dude, you might get fired over this. He's like, oh, good thing it's a part-time gig and I get a signed puck from you. I'm like, I don't know if that's worth it, but I appreciate it. So I'm getting the skates on, and all of a sudden the content team comes over and like, hey, you can't do this for liability reasons. I go, no way. How funny would that have been, though, if I was a part of the
that
ice
would have
crew
been so funny.
barking at the boys? Let's go, boys. Come on. And they look up and it's like, Jesus, Swish.
You're shoveling the ice. I can't believe they stopped you, man.
I know.
What liability? You going to trip out there and sue them?
I said, I played this league. What do you mean? I'll sign whatever you want. Oh, it would have been all time, Ozzo. So I was so bummed. I was even texting like my mom, and I texted Gucci. I was like, hey, I'm going here. I'm about to shovel. So get this on film. And they shut it down ultimately. So it is what it is. But I just thought that was a funny story. I wanted to share it.
Oh, that's unbelievable. That would have been so funny, man. God, you almost got to try to line that up for the game.
I'm going to try. I don't know if it'll be a regular season game. And the best part is the game was like 3-3 with
playoff, that's what I was going to say. Like, how are the boys going to – they're in like a serious matchup, and you're just skating by with the shovel?
Oh, my God, dude. That would be unbelievable. So, yeah, I'll try to get that lined up. But it was – the opportunity just seemed like it was right in front of me. And I was so geeked up, man. I was like, oh, my God. I was kind of like nervous a little bit too. I'm like, Jesus, like, am I going to look like a complete asshole here? Yes, but it's going to be funny. So, yeah, we'll see what we can do, Ozzo. I was definitely a missed opportunity, and maybe in the future you're going to see Swish popping out with a wig on or something on an ice crew. So
I wouldn't mind that. Oh, how about Poppy's change up in the shootout there?
Oh, how sick was that?
That was so nasty.
Little muffin, little fucking off-speed cutter, circle change up, Pedro Martinez. Yeah, that was juice. I mean, even Mitchie Gritty Marner, like that was nasty too. That was Poppy's got to be playing through something though. I tweeted it out. He just doesn't look like he has that pop. I know, and I think I know what it is. I'm not going to say just because he's a friend of the show, but yeah, he just seems like something's bothering him there in the old lower body. Yeah,
it definitely seems like it. That's what happens. These guys, especially they're playing those, it didn't help any of these guys who played, at that Four Nations at the level they played at too. I mean, you're probably playing through injuries there, like it's the goddamn playoffs, and then you got to go back to the regular season and you got to get wins for the regular season. Like, it's a long season, man. I'm surprised. Like, I'm surprised these guys don't get injured every single season.
Well, that's what like Willie Stiles was saying when he was over at Nikki's place on Sunday. He's like, dude, I've been home for like a day in the last 2 months because they went right to the Four Nations from the road. They played there for 2 weeks, and then the Leafs just did a 2-week road trip. So it's like he hasn't been home at all. Like, yeah, you're making 11 and a hook or whatever you're making, but at the same time, it's like, fuck, this is a grind, dude.
It ain't easy, man. It's tough. Ain't. And you're playing a gladiator sport. You ain't playing baseball.
No, you ain't playing baseball. Baseball, dude. Baseball dudes just sit around and just eat beef jerky, seeds, fart all day. Like, what a life that is. You're always at the park, but your heart rate's never over 100. So
no, yeah. I mean, you got
that might be harder. That might be harder.
I think it'd be harder. I mean, you're spending more time and you're just sitting there kind of chilling the whole time. Even in the game, think about a baseball player, Jordo. 85% of the game, they're chilling.
Yeah. Yeah.
They might get a ball hit to them and then they go up to the plate 3-4 times.
Right. We talked with Harvey last week about that. It's just like you're just kind of caught in just like a steady state of just a trance basically the whole season.
You're playing 162 regular season games, Jordo, and then they play like 40 spring training games. Like,
oh my God.
Imagine playing 200 games of something in a season.
No, fuck that. No. Fuck that. That's way too much. That's way too much. Also, I don't know if you saw though, Nate McKinnon, fastest to 100 points. This guy, the dog, dude. I know we've touched on him a bunch on the pod. We love him. But holy shit, he is absolutely humming. And those additions, Brock Nelson, okay, we like that move, North Dakota guy, as well as Charlie Coyle. And again, we've been preaching about Middlestat since even last year, since he got traded for Bo Byram. It's nothing against the kid. I just didn't think he was a 2C in Colorado. cut it up any way you want. But now Colorado, they add those two pieces. Azo, fuck, B. Nelly's a good player.
Hell of a player. So is Charlie Coyle.
Yes.
And this Nakis kid, it looks like he's playing pretty well with McKinnon. You know, like how dumb does Carolina look right now?
Oh,
I
my
mean,
God.
Just
it's insane.
Fleeced.
Like, how don't you do your homework before you trade Martin Necas, who has another year on his deal? And then the fact that you do trade him, you get Rantanen, and then like a week in, it's like, all right, well, here's my 4 teams I want to go play for, and you're not one of them. Like, it's insane. And then Azo, to take it a step further, I want you to comment. How about the real winner of the whole fucking thing, Jackie Rosovic, who had only changed his number for 2 weeks and gets a Rolex out of it? Fucking right.
Oh, Rosovic's got to be pumped. I mean, he's got a nice shiny watch now. Gets his
Numbers
back. I mean, life's good for him. I don't know how you don't. If you're going to trade for a guy like this and you're going to trade away a guy like Nakis, are you not like talking to Rantanen's agent and being like, hey, he's going to sign here, right?
Right.
Is that not happening?
Well, it should be. I just don't think that, like Carolina, their GM, Eric Tuluski, he's not the GM, Azo. Their owner is. Their owner's nuts. Their owner's a high-flying, just, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. I'm going to go try to get players, and I have the final say. So where there's logic, there's not in Carolina. Like, I think most GMs and most owners would be like, we'll part ways with Martin Necas, who's a potential 100-point scorer, if we know in our return Mikko Rantanen is going to sign with us long-term. Whereas Tom Dundon in Carolina, he just is like, let's go get the best available player and try to figure it out later. But as you saw with Jay Gensel last year, they struck out that. They obviously didn't give up what they had to get in terms of Mikko Rantanen, but they still brought in Gensel. They missed on that, and then they really missed on that. And then the GM comes out after the trade deadline, Oslo, and says, well, you know what? We were going to try to make other moves, but the Mikko Rantanen stuff just took too long. It's like, oh my God, dude. Like, and then you're going to publicly admit that? Maybe just keep that one in-house.
Yeah, just shut your mouth and just eat it. It's crazy to think when there's that much money on the line and stuff is this important that you can miss something like that. And then also like Colorado too, or like Mikko Rantanen, didn't he want to stay in Colorado, and didn't they offer him like $12 million a year and
12.5?
And he just did, like he wanted to play for the Stars or is it the income tax? Like what happened there?
I don't know. I think they probably in Colorado, what I heard was they offered him, if not the Nate McKinnon deal, something very similar. And Mikko Rantanen all along thought his AAV on an 8-year deal should be north of 13 million, or at least 13 million. And I think Joe Sakic and Chris McFarland with Colorado just said, all right, buddy, like enough is enough with you. Like take the McKinnon deal, take a little bit less, or we're not fucking paying you. We're sick of you. And then they made that move, and he's like, in shock for the next couple of weeks, head spinning. He's like, I'm in Carolina now? Jesus Christ. Goes to his agent, says, here's 4 teams that I'll sign. And ultimately, Dallas was able to work it out, but then he got traded to Dallas, and before he did, he had to agree to a deal. Well, Dallas was like, well, we're not going over 12 million. So he actually ends up getting less money, same term, and switches teams, and who knows how it's going to work out. Yeah, you got your money, but you're not playing with Nate McKinnon. There's a lot of good players in Dallas, but you don't have the dog with you.
No. And how much was the dog making him look better?
Yes. Well, how many goals do you think the dog got him on the back door? Well, you got to think 25 of those 50, a couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
And you have Cale Makar at the point, too.
Yeah.
On the power play.
You got to think he's either Rantanen's got to be thinking about an agent switch, right? Because this is an agent problem, right? Like telling him like, this is what you're worth. This is what we're going to get.
Yeah.
Like as a player, you're probably just like, yeah, okay. Like sounds good. But he clearly messed it up.
Yeah, I just think the whole thing was handled so poorly. And also I just think, as much as you want to get your money and get paid to the highest value you do feel you are worth, I think at the end of the day, it's billionaires versus millionaires. And if the owner and the GM, they get sick of you, they're just like, well, fuck you, man. Like
Mhm.
we can find really good players and we will trade you. Like, it just goes to show you that damn near every player in the NHL, because this guy's a top 3 winger in the National Hockey League, you're all expendable, which
Oh
is
yeah.
is the truth. It's the cold hard truth. Unless you're Nathan McKinnon, Crosby, McDusty,
Yeah.
you're expendable. I mean, look at Brad Marchand. Brad Marchand, the
See ya.
Boston Bruins are fighting over him over 500 grand, and they get rid of him. That one was crazy to me.
Yeah, the Boston Bruins front office too is, I don't know what they're doing, but
No.
like
They don't want to pay a guy like he wanted whatever 7.5. They offered him 6.3. He was willing to meet in the middle and take 6.8 for 3 years. You just traded away like 5 or 6 rostered players. Like, where are you spending the money in the next 3 years if you're the Boston Bruins? Like, you're in a full on rebuild.
and not to
Don't
mention,
you
like, you
want to
gotta,
pay your captain?
yeah, and don't you want to keep your fans around too? Like, they're the ones paying for everything. They're buying your merch, and this is like one of their beloved players. Like, just keep them around.
And don't you want Brad Marchand at the head of the snake for a rebuild to show your younger players coming up this is the standard? Like,
Yeah.
no disrespect to David Pastrnak and Charlie McAvoy, but I'm not sure if they're ready to take on a captaincy role in a rebuild. I think on an established team, they could probably do it with good veterans around them and all kind of lead by committee. But this is going to be like, a lot of guys up from Providence, a lot of guys in and out, getting looks. It's a new time in Boston. I just think, wouldn't you want that guy around as your culture setter for 500 grand more than you're willing to pay him?
I would.
Like, I think it's pretty easy.
But Florida's looking pretty good now.
Holy fuck. That second line.
Who wants to play
Christ.
against those guys?
Not me.
No.
Those criminals, Kachuk, Bennett, and Marchand on the same line when they all get healthy. Jesus. Like the best part is
keep me off the ice.
The best part is the Leafs year after year think they have a chance, and then you just see a team like that. It's like,
yeah, it's like you guys don't have a prayer in hell.
You guys
might as well try to miss playoffs so you don't injure anyone in the first round.
Right. Like, you don't have the scumbag level even close to compete with that.
No.
Yeah. That was a great one. I was like, of course he goes to Florida. Of course. But Azo, I am going to do the People's Insider Term of the Week. And the People's Insider Term of the Week is trim. Now, trim can mean a few things. Trim happens to be at the bottom, maybe, of a baseline board or a baseboard, wherever you want to call it, a little trim to kind of just make something a little sexier around the house. Oh, that's a nice piece of trim there. But that, in a sense, relates to real life. Now, what is trim used in real life? One would say Swish. Well, trim is a way to say a nice looking gal, a nice looking lady, something that, just has a nice little touch to it, if you will. So rather than go up to a girl and be like, or you're talking to the boys and say, I got some action last night. Well, you'd say, I got a little trim last night. You're like, really? That's pretty interesting. Yeah, just a little road trim, nothing better, eh? You're like, yeah, that's pretty good. So it's just another way to say a gal in an undercover way of talking to the fellas. You're out in public, you're at a bar, you're in the locker room. You don't want to be vulgar. You don't want to come off as some dickhead asshole, or just come out and be that, over the top and harsh in a sense. It's a classier way to say, wow.
Yeah.
You're looking around, you're like at a party, you're like, wow, there's some good trim here, eh? Like, there's a lot of good looking people here, a lot of good looking women, a lot of beautiful women. Yes. There's trim everywhere in this city. So, Azo, I don't know if you don't want to weigh in on that, but that's what I had for trim.
I can't remember where I heard that from. It was probably from you, Jordo. And then there's like a clip online. I think it might have been Obi or Upshaw.
Yeah, it was Obes.
It was Obes like talking to the ref, like
Wes McCauley.
yeah, asking him about the trim on the road or something.
Yeah.
Wes, you getting some trim on the road?
Yeah, he goes, yeah, Wes McCauley calls me for a chintzy hooking penalty. I go back to the box, get out, calls me for another one, a hole. I go, what's your fucking problem, Wes? He goes, I miss my wife, Obes. I've been on the road for 12 days.
Yeah.
I need to fuck. He goes, well, you can get a little trim on the road, Wes. He goes, I would never do that, Obes. I love my wife. He goes, fuck.
Yes, that's where. But yeah, I mean, it is a great. It's I ever since I heard you say it and Obes say it there. It's always just a great, like, someone tells you, like, yeah, I was down in Nashville. We went to Dirks Bentley, and Jason Aldean's, and I was like, oh yeah, pretty good trim down there, eh?
Yeah.
And it's just a great way to say it. Now, I don't know where it comes from. I don't know how it relates, but it hits, and it's a great term to use.
Yeah, I really don't know, like, the exact reason why or how it, I guess it's like a nice way to decorate something. It's something where it's, it's cutting edge. It's just, like, fella, like, fuck, you're down in Colombia there, eh? What's life like that down there besides dust? You're like, fuck, some good trim too, eh? Yeah, good South trim. American. So yeah, never a bad idea. Never a bad way to describe something, folks. That is the People's Insider term of the week. When in doubt, nothing like some trim on the road. So 93.1 sent you. Azo, before we get to Brad Elliott Schlossman today, the College Hockey Insider. This is always brought to you by Mini Movers, Butter Golf, and Gladiator Therapeutics, by the way. Mini Movers, the official moving company of Live and Five, Butter Golf, the official lifestyle apparel brand, and Gladiator Therapeutics, the official Neurologic Wellness Institute, sponsor of the show from Dr. George. Azo, what did you have before we send it to Brad Elliott for your nail gun of the week? Foul la.
I had Miami Dolphins starting QB Tua
Tug my wrench Viola.
Yeah, what is it? Tagovailoa?
Tua, yeah. Tua Tagovailoa.
Tua, everyone knows him as Tua, but he's catching some heat, Jordo. His wife or his cousin took a video and posted on social media. They're on a yacht, kind of just enjoying off season, and Tua's got a barrel on him.
No way.
Tua's got a nice barrel on him. Looks nice and out of shape. He looks like a starting QB to me, Jordo, in March. But
I love that. On a bender,
having a great time on a yacht, a little out of shape, and he's catching heat for it. Like, oh, look at this quarterback. He's out of shape. Tua is not taking it seriously. These people don't understand. These guys can turn on and lose that barrel. This guy's going to lose that barrel in 2 weeks.
Oh yeah.
It's nails to be a starting QB in the NFL and have a little barrel in the offseason.
It's 100% is, and you got to go on a bender to excite yourself and motivate yourself to get to the point, because you always get to that part of the offseason, Azo, as a hockey player, Same goes for football. Mm-hmm. You're sick of fucking working out. And if you start working out too early in the offseason, you burn out. You really do. Yeah. You could burn out before the season even starts, and now you're behind the 8 ball, and now you're going into the season limping. It's more so mental than it is physical. So it's always good to time out when you start really ramping it up. But it brings me back to our UND days. Do you remember Keaton Thompson and Luke Johnson that one year where Pooley had us take the pre-bender and the post-bender pictures? Do you remember that? We were like, it was for just like his files. You wanted to see our body fat. So you took your shirt off, and it was like, your body composition was written on the paper, and then it was like your barrel before and after. And Larry Johnson, shout out to Luke Johnson, who's absolutely chiseled now, by the way. And he's like one of the most healthy, fitness freaks ever. Tomer, still in good shape. But these guys back then, man, their barrels were like
huge,
30%
so nails. Like, oh, yeah. It's so good. It's like Cameron Johnson. You see Cameron Johnson.
Yeah.
You see CJ on the beach in the summer, and he looks like an absolute rig. And you're like, how is this guy going to stop pucks all season? And then you look come January, and he's leading the league in save percentage. He's got a ton of shutouts, and he's going to be league MVP again.
Yeah, it's so funny. So I'm glad that you gave a nice you need to go on a proper bender, especially that guy who's had so many conks. Like, just let him just fucking unthaw, get a little fat.
Yeah.
He'll figure it out. So I like that one, Ozzo, my nail gun of the week, Eldrick Woods. Eldrick Woods, man, tore his Achilles. Like, how many surgeries and how many Percocets has this guy gone through? Because it seems like he's had like almost 20 surgeries at this point. The guy almost died.
I think it's
now.
more.
Yeah, and now he's had his spine fused together. He's, broken his face, his neck, his jaw, Achilles, knees, hips. It's everything, Ozzo. And it's like, this guy's just trying to play golf for fun now. And, he probably went into a workout or whatever it was, probably warmed up for 3 hours instead of 4 and tears his Achilles. Like, man, that fucking sucks. Like, it's
brutal.
Can this guy catch a break? Like, for the amount of success he's had, man, he's had a lot of dark days in there.
Oh man, a ton. And now, I like to look at it, try to spin zone it. When you've had a couple surgeries, Jordo, you do need your perks because you're in a lot of pain. Now, it's a long shot here, but is Tiger like purposefully injuring himself so he can have another surgery to get another prescription of these perks? Like,
that's what I'm wondering.
What's going on? Like,
at this point, it's like
his body is taking more beating than some of these WWE wrestlers that have been doing it for 20 years.
Absolutely,
and he's a golfer.
Yeah, it's wild, man. It's like, and he's not getting any younger too. It's like, Eldrick, like, at what point, bro, do you just hang it up and like try not to have a surgery every year? Like, it's literally insane.
Yeah. And in these
like,
surgeries,
you can barely walk as is.
These surgeries aren't good on your body either. Like, you're going onto the knife, your body's working overtime to heal some part of your body. It's like, how long can you keep doing it?
That's what I'm asking. I'm asking you the same question. It's like, dude, like, the guy could barely walk, let alone.
He's got to be. Yeah, I don't
know.
Like, there's no way he's walking when he's 70 years old, right?
No, and he's not even that old. Like, how old is Eldrick? 50? Like, he looks weathered. Obviously, he's lived a life of for 10 people, but like, he's not, dude. He's only 49, bro. Like, I would have thought he was like 56.
Yeah, he's not even in the stage of like being kind of older and needing like knee replacements and stuff. Like, he hasn't even hit that part yet.
No, and it seems like he's aged like 10 years in the last 2.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's just holy.
It's just, I don't think he can play golf again. Like, you got to just at some point be like, hey, I kind of want to walk around when I'm 70. So.
Right. But he's just such a sicko that I don't think he can.
He is. He's a psycho. I don't know if, I guarantee he's going to try to play again at least once.
100%. He loves to come back, and it's good to wheel too. Everyone likes a good comeback story. So
yeah.
Ozzo, I want to give some love to Mikey Schmaltz. Mikey Schmaltz went under the knife yesterday. He had to repair a root meniscus, had surgery on that, fucking hurt himself at Orange Theory, just trying to work out, and ultimately tore his meniscus. But he finished the workout, he said, dating back to about a month ago. So he gutted it out, went to the floor, did the roar, but heard that pop, that ever so popular, just familiar sound of a knee, and went under the knife yesterday. So Mikey Schmaltz, just wanted to give him a couple clicks as he starts his road to recovery, because that sucks, fella, too.
Good luck, Fuzz. Yeah, that's brutal.
Yeah, so Fuzzy, we're thinking about you over here at Live in 5, fella. Keep trucking one day at a time. Ozzo, let's send it over to Brad Elliott Schlossman. Big weekend for the UND Sioux down in Omaha. Talked to Schloss about that for about a half hour, as well as some other interesting things that were brought up involving college hockey and what else. So always tape to tape, Captain, with you over here at the pre-show. Folks, that was Live in 5 Tape to Tape, D to D, Azo, J Swish, episode number 79, pre-show, Across the Screws. We'll see you next week, baby. Woo! Alrighty, folks, welcome back to the program over here at Live and Five. Reoccurring guest, friend of the show, college hockey guru, Fighting Hawks, I guess, Schloss, that is now the Fighting Sioux. That is to me. I got my how are you sweater on right now. Big weekend out in Omaha. So let's start at the top here first off before we get into that. How you doing, my friend? It's good to see you.
Yeah, great. Omaha is beautiful right now, 72-degree weather. I love going to the rink in shorts. I know that's normal for you down there in Arizona, but that's not normal for us.
Isn't it always funny, too, when you see Jake Schmaltz, my uncle, you see Jake Schmaltz as his dad, Mark Schmaltz, walking into the arena. I don't know if you see him from time to time, but no matter the weather, Schloss, whether it's negative 40 in Grand Forks, that man always has shorts on, so that's nothing new for him, too, by the way.
Guaranteed. Always shorts. Yeah, I've never seen him wear long pants before.
What is that about the nerd?
Well, him and my dad always used to do it, and it was basically, from what I've gathered from both of them, is basically they're too tough for the cold. So no matter the weather, no matter what it was, you remember back in the day when they had those Under Armour shorts that were like paper thin? Do you remember like the first Under Armour short that came out in like, say the year 99 or 2000? Like it was literally like a material of like a balloon, basically, maybe even a little thinner. Those guys would rock those into the Kohl Center all the time. We were up in Grand Forks, they'd be wearing them. So it's always, and he's carried on that tradition. My dad actually has graduated to the pants boys, believe it or not, over the last few years. He's smart enough, but the nerd still rocks those. So yeah, it's pretty funny. It's always, and they're always short too, which I like. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's such a dad play. Like that's that time of year. That's that era. Like my dad refuses to buy an actual winter jacket. He only wears that like scout, Bauer jacket that the scouts wear. That's the biggest jacket he'll wear because he thinks he's tough. It's like, dude, it's negative 30 out. You're not tough. You look dumb.
Those northern boys, they were built different on the farm or whatever they were doing. So yeah, that's classic. But so Schloss, we wanted to bring you on. Obviously, you're our college hockey insider over here. Big weekend for UND down in Omaha, the 5th seed, playing the Nebraska Omaha, the old Mavericks there. So what are we thinking for this weekend, brother? It's obviously a 4-versus-5 matchup. UND on the road, best of 3. Do we like our chances, first and foremost, as fans over here of the boys?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I was thinking you always want to be at home this weekend. That's no doubt. UND wanted to be at home. In a very weird way, this team actually has a better record on the road in NCHC play. So I was kind of thinking, does it really matter that much this year, whether at home or the road? This team seems to play well on the road, and Omaha plays well at home. So I think you have two teams that are going to be fairly evenly matched. I'm curious exactly what UND's decor is going to look like. It sounds like Caleb McDonald's coming back, so that helps. EJ Emery skated today. We'll see if he can play, but they were getting pretty thin on the back end there. You've still got 1 year of eligibility left, I know. Surprised I didn't call you up to bring you on down here for this one.
Yeah, I could play 30 no matter what. If it goes 3 games, though, the legs might be heavy. So we might have to get it done in 2. But, yeah, you mentioned the decor. You mentioned, obviously, just, they had played Omaha this past weekend at the Ralph. It was senior weekend. So how did that series match up? I mean, obviously, Saturday got away from them early as far as when I talked to Jake a little bit, and Friday seemed like a decent showing. So is consistency with this group, is that something that's going to be big, to win this series ultimately, whether it goes 2 or 3 games?
Yeah, that's kind of been a theme this season. At the consistency hasn't always been there. I thought on Saturday they gave up a goal at the end of the second period to go down the end of the first period to go down 2-0. UND had played all right in the first period, and then it felt like they were trying to chase the game, taking chances when they probably didn't need to. Like it was still okay. You're still in the game. It's only 2 goals. There's still 2 periods left, and I think maybe that's one of the reasons they've been better on the road. Is sometimes they just simplify and they make more simple plays on the road. And when this team is simple, they're pretty good. And that's going to have to be a key this weekend, is just making simple plays. And, you don't need to win the game every shift.
No, 100%. Yeah, I was going to ask the same because I was busy watching the high school hockey tournament last weekend. Didn't get to watch the boys up north. How do they stack up against each other? I mean, they're pretty even. Like, I almost would say, I don't know if I could say this in the past, but Omaha might be favorites this weekend.
I mean, generally you just pick the home teams as the favorites. Omaha's goaltender has been fantastic. If you look at some of the shots on goal and analytics, like, he has bailed them out several times in the second half. You get to the playoffs, you want a hot goalie. I think TJ Semptenfelter has been a different goalie the last month as well, month and a half too. So that's going to be an interesting battle. Omaha's a lot of their older players were the ones that had success last weekend. They had a couple fifth-year senior transfers come in there that made an impact last weekend. The two Alaska kids definitely did. The two Wisconsin kids have played really well for the Mavericks this season. I think the key is UND just continuing to play its game. If you get down by, the chances were coming. That was the thing. Maybe in some games where it's tight checking and you're not getting a lot of scoring chances, maybe then you take a little bit more. Like, they were fine. The chances were coming. They were getting them. Omaha gives up over 30 shots a game. You're going to get your looks. I think one of the keys is just trying to find a way to bury them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, in terms of what UND, just from what I've seen this year, and Oswald's maybe watched a little bit more, it seems to be a common theme of maybe just lacking some secondary scoring. And some of these guys that might have to step up, like, who are you looking at for UND to win this series and ultimately get them and punch their ticket to Minneapolis the following weekend? Schloss, like, who are some of these guys? Is it Dylan James? Is it Jake Schmaltz? Is it Louis Jamernick? Like, you can't have this Sasha kid scoring all the goals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you got to, like I said last Saturday, it was the older players that rose up for Omaha. I think some of the older players, this is their last kick at the can here for a bunch of these guys up front. You've got Cam Berg, you've got Louis Jamernick, Jake Schmaltz, Jackson Kuntz. So a bunch of these guys are their careers are on the line here, and so are some of these guys from Omaha. I think those are the guys that need to step forward, have a really good weekend. When you have a really good goaltender, sometimes you need those the rebound goals, you need tips, you need screens. Jake Schmaltz is one of the best guys at tipping pucks on this team. Jackson Kuntz is the best guy at screening the goalie. Some of these guys can impact games, and I think they need to do it in their way.
Yeah, 100%. You need everything out of those guys. And you also need Perron to show up. I think you need I know I hope he's 100%. I have no idea how he's going to look after coming off injury. But yeah, you got those older guys, and then we need Omac obviously and Cam Berg to show up this weekend. Like, this has got to be a huge weekend for Cam Berg.
Yeah, for sure. And some of those guys have been dynamite on the power play this year. Right now, teams aren't getting very many power plays, and in the playoffs, you might not get very many. Those guys need to be good at even strength this weekend. You're not going to get 6 power plays. Mm-hmm. So some of those guys need to produce at even strength, and Sasha Boisvert's produced a lot at even strength. I think Jaden Perron's been outstanding on the power play, but he hasn't scored a lot at even strength. That's going to be an area that would help if he can produce some at 5-on-5 goals, because you're probably going to need to.
So what's the overall vibe around the team? You're the beat writer. You're around the rink, Schloss. I know the boys left yesterday, I believe, to Omaha, hit the I-29. It's crazy, too. It's always funny, like, do they bus down to Omaha? Do you fly? It goes back to those Dave Hakstol years in the era of, okay, if you swept the previous year and you flew, you would fly. But if you split, okay, now we're bussing. So I believe they were pounding pavement down the I-29. But what's the overall vibe, man? Is it confident? Are we a little worried? Is there a little fear in the eye of the boys? Like, because you can kind of read a room, especially when you're interviewing guys, for sure.
Yeah, I felt in the second half, the way that TJ Semptenfelter had played, you could see the confidence growing in them. Also, when you lose a game, you know what it's like. It's like your dog died and everything is falling apart. And they were on a really good run. They were 14-7-2. And if you have twice as many wins as losses in college hockey, you're doing pretty good. And then after they're 14-7-2 after Friday's game, they lose Saturday. So I think the key is trying to get that loss out of their head and just continue what they have been doing. Because what they have been doing in the second half was pretty good. That's something they could build off of. So they went into Denver and won with a bunch of guys out of the lineup. They went into Western Michigan and won. When you're beating those teams on the road, you have the capability of doing it. But they need to make sure that last Saturday's loss doesn't mentally get them down, because if they play well, they're right there.
Schloss, I wanted to ask kind of an outside the box question here. I don't know if it's ever been done, but let's say worst case scenario, UND loses this weekend, season's over. Is there a chance, now you don't have to name names, but is there a chance one of our top end players who's supposed to come back transfers to a different school?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's going to be the new era. Like, I can tell you there are teams that are throwing money at players around the country. And guess what? UND's not going to be a team that they don't throw money at. There are good players on UND's team, and programs with a lot more money are going to throw money at players on other teams, including UND. Yeah.
Do you know where these teams are throwing? Like, how do they have the means to throw money at these players? Because I would like to figure this out so I can maybe start tossing some cash at some players.
Yeah. I mean, some of it, I believe some of it is trickle down from football money. Like some of these Big Ten schools are getting so much revenue from football that it kind of trickles into other areas. So I know the Big Ten, in particular, Michigan, has been behind the scenes kicking tires on players. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know all the details, but I know that is absolutely happening. And
does it coming from, it's not coming from the university. Is it coming from like donors? Like, do I need to find the oil rig guys out in North Dakota and be like, hey boys, we need a good team here?
Yeah. That's from my understanding, it comes from the donors. The donors kind of can work with the coaching staff to make sure the right players are going to get the right money. And, and there are some schools are misleading kids a little bit. They're telling them, we're going to give you, let's just throw the $100,000. Okay. But they're also not giving you a scholarship. So, school costs $80,000, and then you have, when you add in cost of attendance in Alston, you're really getting the same package you were at the previous school. So, I think agents and kids have to do their homework on what actually is happening. But yeah, I mean, it's the Wild West right now. I mean, everyone's trying to figure out who's going to be back and who's going to be available.
So is that a concern that not only the coaching staff, but the university might have moving forward, where these Big Ten schools or some of these other schools out east, Schloss, say Boston College, for example, or, even a Big Ten school, like you mentioned, Michigan, are we going to lose out to some of these players just based on a pure cash battle? Is that something UND is concerned about? I mean, I think I would be if I was on that staff.
I think that's something the entire NCHC is concerned about.
Right, because they just don't have the money to match it, right?
They don't have football money. Not the only one that does is Arizona State. Yeah, Arizona State's like on a different. I don't know what the right word is.
Playing field, or
just, they're on a different kind of playing field than the rest of the NCHC is. It's a completely different style institution. I know some people had said that privately when Arizona State got admitted. They're like, I hope we realize that this school is playing by different rules than the rest of us. And that tongue in cheek, they obviously have the same rules, but they have a different structure of university than the rest of the league. So I think I've heard from a lot of different teams in the NCHC that are concerned. And we'll see where it goes. I think you got to find the right players. You got to find, if there's one like
What?
saving grace, if that's so to speak, you can still win with some really good all around players. And the last team to win a national championship with 2 first-round picks was North Dakota in 2016. So
Esser and Schmaltz.
Yep. And since then after that, I think the first-round picks to win were Borgstrom at Denver, Riley Tufte at Minnesota Duluth, and then Zeev Buyam at Denver. So like some of these teams are just really good teams with a bunch of good players, maybe mid-rounders or guys people forgot about, like a Troy Stetcher, Drake Kajula. So like as of right now, you can still win with really good all-around teams, but you have to find the right guys too. I kind of thought back to like that 13-14 team you guys were on, and things weren't going well the first semester of that team. I think that was even the team that Tambellini left mid-season, right?
Yeah, couldn't hang.
Nobody transferred then because it wasn't the same thing. Like you guys just dug in and were really, really good the second half of that year and the next 2 years. And you were able to grow with the same group. And now I ask, if you're struggling at Christmas, you have 8 teams in your ear, trying to recruit you and get you to leave. And what are you doing in the second half of that year? Are you digging in and saying, how are we going to get out of this? Or are you looking around saying, maybe I should play for this team next year or this team next year,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you even look at guys that played with, for example, just the guys I know with my cousin. You look at this is no disrespect to some of these kids, but you look at a Luke Bast, or you look at a Nick Ports, a St. Cloud. It's crazy because you could just be told everything you want to hear at Christmas time and even into April, and then you kind of find yourself in the same position at a different school, and it's like, well, fuck, I just left North Dakota where I had a little bit of equity and a little bit of stock of maybe I could have inserted myself into a bottom 6 role. It's maybe not what I dreamed of, but I would have been getting the ice time. Schloss, I wanted to ask you though, like with the portal, with the money, with the Western League and the OHL Major Junior coming into factor, and more so just NIL money, like, is that the slow death of programs like St. Cloud? Is Duluth going to have bigger issues? Are kids going to be looking Big Ten or Hockey East or, the big time schools? Or is that something you just kind of talked about? Like, you can still find good players. You just maybe have to, do a little bit more digging.
I think the transfer portal and the NIL is the really concerning part for those schools. I think when you add in the WHL and you expand the player pool, that gives them more options to replace those players. And I think the deeper the player pool is, the more parity there is. So I actually think that will at least help a little bit. Like I had a coach from a CCHA program come and kind of rant about, hey, anytime we have a good player, they're gone. And he said, but if you open up the WHL, now I have another avenue to go and replace this guy. Whereas, so I think that will help a little bit. But I know that there are a lot of programs worried that, where the money goes is where the players are going to end up, and it could be really tough to compete. So I don't know the exact answer to that one, but that's going to be a big storyline over the next few years to see how that goes. And then the other question, maybe too, some of these programs that have like the 6 first rounders, are all those guys bought in? Are all those guys looking for the next thing? Well, I think, Gage, when you guys won those titles, those guys were all bought in. Like,
yeah,
I think someone told me the story in Stetcher wasn't a first rounder, but there were people that kind of wanted him to discuss signing after he won. And he said, forget that. I'm going to hang out with the guys, like that
matters when you're trying to win, when you're trying to win in, in playoffs. I mean, that carries a lot of weight for sure.
Yeah. And there are the other crazy thing that's going on at programs. I hear this from coaches all over the country that, you have a guy and you switch lines, and now all of a sudden, like, let's say he's listed second line or third line on the line chart, whatever that means. Now all of a sudden, the agent's calling the head coach saying, why is he on the second line? And then the NHL team calls the next day and says, why is this guy playing with this guy? He should be playing with this guy. And then you have this guy's agent over here calling you. And it's like, these kids have so many people in their ears all the time. Sometimes it's like, just let them go play, have fun.
Yeah. It's just, well, when you got money involved, people start to protect their investments.
Their assets.
Schloss, right now, I know in the future we'll probably get to, we'll see some stuff, but right now, I know I see this basketball and football, these figures that some of these players are getting.
Yeah.
You don't have to name names, but do we have any figures? Are guys getting paid this year at all, or is that kind of coming in the future?
Guys are getting paid this year. It's not even remotely close to what we see for basketball and football. Yeah. I would say, like, the one I heard about, there's a prominent player in college hockey who was deciding whether to turn pro or come back, and the school paid essentially his entry-level contract for the year and said, here's how much money you would get for an entry-level deal. In what is an entry-level contract?
$925 at the top, and you get,
okay,
$95,000, I think, is a signing bonus.
Yeah. So I mean, that was like the one that everyone was talking about. That one kid, like, ended up getting they kind of paid for at least part of that.
I'm going to guess who that is. You don't have to say. I'm going to say Ryan Leonard, but you don't have to say anything. So
that's not the name I heard, actually.
Okay. That is, if he got that, that's an absolute sheet.
Yeah.
I'm staying in college for that.
Yes.
I think there are a few, like, getting like around the 100 mark, but a lot are lower, like 50, or 40. Yeah. And this is not, people are thinking like 8 players on each team are getting this. No, we're talking like
one or two
guy or two guys on like prominent teams.
Yeah.
Some schools haven't even given out any.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think some of these Canadian players, they've heard all about NIL and college NIL, but they're hearing the basketball stories, so they all think everyone's getting like $1 million coming down.
Oh,
it's like, you might get 10 grand if you're really good, or 20. But
hey, I'll take 10 or 20.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And like North Dakota does the Alston thing now, so everyone gets their $6,000, which when you're a college kid, I would
huge.
10 or 22. You convert that to Canadian dollars. Some kid up in Red Deer, that's almost $100,000 at this point with the way that country's going. But Schloss, I wanted to ask you, and we'll let you go here in a few minutes. I had a couple for you. First, I'm going to start out right here. When do the Miami Redhawks get relegated from the NCHC? Brother, I'm looking right now. Their record in conference was 0-23-1. Mm-hmm. What is going on at Miami? They used to be good.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised they were this bad. I thought that they returned a bunch of guys, and they picked up some guys in the portal. Everyone in college hockey is picking off wins here and there. Long Island won 20 games this year.
Right. Yeah. Can't we win one game in conference?
One.
Here, boys?
Yeah, just one. But, from Anthony Narine, the new coach, it sounds like, they're going to have like 20 new players next year. Mm-hmm. They have like 2 guys in the top 15 in the USHL in scoring. And they have another kid who's coming in his draft eligible year, who's projected as a first rounder right now, Morozov from Tri-City Storm. So they've got some players coming in. Also, like, some of these recruits they're getting are going to be still 2 years out. And then, when they come in as freshmen, what it's like as a freshman in college hockey. If you're relying on your freshman to win, it's not going to happen. So we'll see what they are. I'm giving them like to year 3. And if we can see progress, then we'll see some progress. I think we will see some. You guys know what that town's like. It's great. Mm-hmm. It's a great facility. Like, you should be able to win there.
Yeah. No excuses. I mean, tough travel to get there for the parents, I think, because you got to fly into like Columbus or something. But
you got to fly into Cincinnati, and Brad gets his Skyline chili.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. See, you're dating.
The foodie you are. But okay, my last one, maybe Ozzo has one, but my last one for you, Schloss, before we let you go, thank you for taking the time. If you're looking at a playoff weekend in the NCHC, and you're going to give me one upset, Who are you picking? Is it CC over Denver? Is it Cloud over a team like Western? Or is it Duluth over maybe ASU? I don't know if I'd consider Nodak Omaha that's kind of a rubber match. So
Kind
if
of a
you're,
money line pick.
right.
It's a
So
cheap one. It's 4-5. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So if you're giving me like one that could potentially go game 3, or you could be like, wow, I can maybe see that happening.
It could happen. Notre Dame just did it against Minnesota.
Yeah.
sure.
I mean, I see a couple. I'm going to say Minnesota Duluth at ASU. Adam Guyan had a tough start to his freshman year, and he's kind of coming around right now, and he could be a really high-end goaltender. I think Max Plant is really, really good. That one, there could be some. That one could be of interest. The other thing that I thought about with CC, that's the one I'm going to pick for the record. But with CC Denver, so I had to watch the end of Saturday's game to know where UND was going to end up going. Because if that game went to overtime, UND was going to Denver first round. It was 4-1 Denver. CC scored to go 4-2. CC scored to go 4-3. And they were all over Denver. I was like, they're going to tie this. I looked at shots. CC had 25 shots on goal in the third period alone. So, I have that in the back of my mind. Like, I just watched CC absolutely dominate a period against Denver. Of course, that doesn't mean they're going to win, but I am going to go with Duluth ASU. But I do think we're going to see some interesting ones. St. Cloud, Isaac Posh is playing well, but Western has not lost a game in regulation at home this year. They've lost twice. Both were overtime, and both times the team scored an extra attacker to get to overtime. I don't think you go in to win 2.
Pack your bags, Huskies. Sorry, fellas.
Yeah.
Pack your shit, boys. Head to Panama City Beach.
Yeah.
Head to Daytona. Head to Hooters. But Ozzy, you got anything else for Slosh?
No, that was great, Schloss. Thanks for joining, man. Hope you're enjoying life in Omaha. Absolutely. Hopefully we can see you down here next weekend in St. Paul.
I'll be there.
Where you? Where's dinner tonight in Omaha? You're a foodie. Where are you going?
I'm going to go to the inner rail down here by the hotel. There's a bunch of different restaurants in this building, so I can go there, scan it, choose. It's solid,
Yes.
It's no.
It's no New Orleans takeout.
No New Orleans. Did you see I got New Orleans takeout in the paper the other week?
I did. Yeah, I read it. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. I saw it. So great shout out. All right, brother. You're the best college hockey insider. Thank you for taking time. And again, hopefully UND can get it done there in Omaha. So Schloss, you're the man. Appreciate you, fella.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. See ya.